What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is going to be a bit shorter and a lot more informal, but while making part 2 of Ahsoka's complete life, I noticed something that was really interesting. This symbol that we first see on Mortis was later seen on Illum and even the Jedi Temple on Lothal. This is going to get really crazy and I definitely want to hear your opinions on this, so be sure to comment them down below. And I'll just lay out all the similarities and connections between these three sites, and how it points to the ones being the precursors or creators of the Jedi Order, at a time that would be much further back than any Star Wars material has ever covered. So this symbol is first seen on many different spots on Mortis. I noticed that it was also outside of the structure on Ilum, in this circle where the younglings have to call on the Force to open the temple up. And then when we go inside, we see that it's all over the walls, and again on the floor in multiple locations. The only other place we ever saw this was on Mortis, and it would be on no other location in the Clone Wars. And then we only see it once in Rebels in the Lothal Temple. In both locations, the architecture is very Mortis-like. On Ilum, when the entryway is revealed, look how similar this is to the spire from the Father's dwelling on Mortis. Both here and on Lothal, the exterior is made to look like it is a part of nature, but descends away to reveal the entrance. And inside of both, the lines and angles, doorways, and just overall look is very similar to Mortis. And we also saw that these locations on the ground containing the symbol required the being that was tested to stand inside of it, like when the Father conducted the test to see if Anakin was truly the chosen one. Similarly, the younglings on Ilum stand in this circle containing the Mortis symbol in order to open up this location. And then with Canon and Ezra, we get the same idea for the Lothal Temple. Which is a really cool detail when they made this episode, and something which makes me think that this does have a connection, something that you really had to pay attention to see, is that throughout this entire episode you never get a good top-down angle. You can't see this symbol until the very end. If you look close, you can just barely see it here, kinda covered in grass and clearly something that the Rebel show creators did on purpose. Just faint enough to miss it, but if you knew where to look, you would see this Mortis symbol. For more connections, this is also the place where Ezra gets his Kyber crystal, the exact same reason that the younglings went to Ilum. All three of these locations also serve to test their visitors. Anakin was shown visions of the future, and haunted by the visions of the past in the form of his mother, while Ahsoka would see a vision of her future self, which tested her confidence in her future as Skywalker's Padawan. Obi-Wan's faith in Anakin would also be tested. Basically, this whole arc was just a series of tests for this trio. Similarly, each of the younglings on Ilum were tested in ways particular to each of their weaknesses. And as we would expect, we see the same thing with Ezra at the Lothal Temple, being plagued with vision after vision that test his fear of losing his master, Kanan Jarrus, and his insecurities as being one of the newest members of the Spectres. Remember, Mortis is a place where the Ones, known only as the Father, the Daughter, and the Son, called home. A location that was in a plane of existence outside of the normal galaxy. They were originally from the normal Star Wars galaxy, but the Father states that long ago he decided that their powers in the Force were too great.
My children and I can manipulate the Force like no other. Therefore it was necessary to withdraw from the temporal world.
To anyone who might dismiss this arc as some weird one-off, or just something not important to the lore overall, I would point to a lot of things coming back from this arc. Ahsoka is revived here via a Force transfer, something that obviously played a big role in Episode 9, and I think it's the first time this is ever shown on screen. And then things like the bird that represents the daughter having this still not fully understood connection with Ahsoka, while what might be the most important of all is the time travel aspect introduced in Rebels, with the past and the future of both Anakin and Ahsoka being a major factor in the Mortis arc, and we see the Ones being on the entrance to the world between worlds. The Mortis arc in the Clone Wars is both canon and legends, but that arc was older and could have been easily just ignored in canon, leaving it to the sort of dream or hallucination explanation that a lot of fans went with. Instead, they bring the Ones back to be depicted on the gateway on Lothal. Not some sort of dream, but the very real world between worlds, which has doors that open up to different locations across the galaxy, allowing one to play with the rules of time. An ability that the Ones had, with the Father getting extremely mad at the Son for showing Anakin visions of his potential future. So their existence as being important in canon as well has definitely been cemented in the new lore. But what I'm saying is that this connection with the symbols and the similarities of these locations is that the Ones may have been the originators of the Jedi Order. I think that's the breadcrumbs we're supposed to follow from both Rebels and the Clone Wars. An order which in the past must have also included practice of what later Jedi would call the darkside. On Mortis, we see that the Ones know how the Jedi view themselves and the Sith, and see the Jedi Order's whole dichotomy to be incredibly oversimplified. The Jedi's weapon is the lightsaber, and its power comes from the Force coming through the Kyber crystal. These crystals work as a gateway between the physical world and the metaphysical power of the Force. If we are to believe that the Lothal Temple, the entry to the world between worlds, and the Illum Temple were all built by the Ones, Then it seems that while the father decided to remove himself from the galaxy in order to keep some sort of balance, he created these locations to test worthy individuals across the ages. As the ones were once physical, and became purely non-physical, the ones made these Kyber crystals to act as a conduit, a physical thing that can channel the Force into a weapon that can be used by both those who wish to spread light and those who wish to spread dark. A power that you could only receive if you could pass the trial in the buildings that each bear this Mortis symbol. And this role of the Kyber crystal is also the role of the Force user themselves. Again, as if the writers are trying to give us clues here, the very first words we see spoken inside of the Illum temple are these.
The Force, made physical, a Jedi is. Comes great responsibility with that, yes?
Yoda is saying that the Jedi is a conduit through which the Force can take action in this physical world. While the embodiment of the Force is on Mortis, this physical universe would be the greatest test site of all. While Illum and Lothal had their specific tests for their specific goals, it is as if the ones use this physical universe as one big test of character. The Father wants there to be dark and conflict with the light, and ensures that if you are to embark in this struggle, you too will be tested. With most of the greatest Jedi throughout the ages, all seeing life as a series of trials placed on you by the Force itself. This naturally got me thinking of Ceja, who I think rightly identified the Force as the font of all suffering. That in this setup, where Force-sensitive beings receive immense power to do good or enormous amounts of evil, in a universe where souls of each and every being are constantly tested with hardship, you could prevent all of this if only you could destroy the Force. And interestingly, the Vong from outside the galaxy that the ones originated from do not interact with the Force at all, neither using it or being affected by it. So if we want to think in terms of legends, as the ones and Mortis also exist in legends, it's kind of cool to think how all this could sync up. So I just thought that was all really neat. Not sure what they'll do with that, but I definitely think that these ancient Jedi sites were actually created by the ones, and may play a larger role in Star Wars metaphysics in general. I don't know how I didn't catch these symbols being in all three of these places before, but definitely let me know if you did, and comment what you make of all of this. If you want to connect with us on social media, find ways you can help support this channel for free, or check out our Patreon and PayPal, be sure to check out the links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon, especially Chris Garcia, Andrew Ban, Seraph Diaz, and Cass Costello. But most important of all, remember, it's all one big Force trial, and the Force will be with you always.